Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting batch of Propagandacast news, and we got some big news. We got the fall balance preview from Relic, which will obviously hit somewhere in fall. I'm guessing September, either early, late. I'm hoping early personally, but obviously could very well be late September. Either way, September is most likely to bet here where the fall balance preview will be hitting, and you might ask, well, what's the overall plan for it? But overall, it seems generally their plan is like 3 vs 3 4 sport team games, which means, well, what does that mean? Basically, it means they're hitting call-ins really hard. Like, basically, every call-in tank, with, I think, the exception of the Stu-Gi, and the Flamheads are not. The Flamheads actually get hits with it. Basically, every unit call-in tank gets hit with a 25% premium if you do not have the requisite tech for it. So, like, usually, again, we've seen for ages, you know, someone's going to go for a Tiger. If you do that now, or with the fall balance preview, you're going to have to pay a lot more if you didn't have tech, which basically means you're not punished as hard for teching as you used to be, which is always one of the issues when it comes to, you know, tech versus calling. You know, just tech usually was actually punished because it cost a lot more to tech and then get the tank than it was to just call in a tank. And with that now, it's just sort of further a difference there. So for example, now calling in a Tiger, you know, would be really, really expensive. We're talking almost 300 fuel and 800 manpower. So actually, I think closer to 900 manpower. So in that regard, it becomes a lot more expensive to just try and rely on call-ins, meaning you can in theory go for it, but you're going to much quicker lose steam compared to someone who just pays it up better with tech. So that's basically sort of the really big changes there. One of the really big one. I mean, there's also a lot of other changes in the arm, but again, it's mostly centered around the tanks, the call-in tanks specifically. For example, Yak Tiger's elephants get some nerfs to damage. The Yak Tiger, on the other hand, gets like access to the bombardment ability right away. The elephant gets absolutely bugger all, which means it's not going to get used to use it out of team games anyways. Yak Tiger could theoretically see uses in 1 vs 1 matches with this change. Tiger tanks get a bit more speed. IS-2s get access to a fragmentation round instead of its capture territory ability. So basically like a super high explosive round which can just use to sort of shatter infantry. So that's going to be fun there. Might make the IS-2 see a bit more usage overall. Pershing gets actually nothing really. I think some slight things that you can just abuse the HVAC round. But again, Tiger faster. IS-2 gets explosive rounds. And they actually fixed the Crocodile. Apparently the Crocodile had a secret hidden flamethrower that allowed it just to do crazy amounts of damage. So the Crocodile won't be just as infantry murder-tastic as it used to be, which is also a positive. Priests can't no longer decrew, so you can't abuse that. Just calling a lot of things there. Calliope's, I think, get some changes. Stukas of Fusses get some changes. They're less sort of murdery, and the Panzerwerfer loses its suppression. So those are some of the changes also happening again. They're sort of, you know, from a perspective aimed for like the bigger team games, but some of them will have an effect on the smaller games as well, which you think, you know, is overall a positive. I mean, there's also some bigger changes there in that sense. For example, for the Brits, one of the bigger changes, really bigger changes, is the Molten placement really gets hit with a hammer. It doesn't lose brace or even get it nerfed, but it does get less health. Initially, it also only has one mortar activated initially. You have to upgrade for the other one. Plus, overall, the range of the mortar is limited. Auto and barrage. Smoke, on the other hand, is increasing. It gets access to the smoke right away. But it does mean, overall, they're trying to push it more as that way support. And it can less just sort of lock down half the map. Plus, it's a bit easier to deal with in theory. So, that's a really good start and certainly something I'm personally looking forward to. The Buffos get some improvement in the center as well, and that's also another big one. They are increasing the anti-aircraft firepower abilities of most anti-aircraft units so they can more easily take down any sort of strafing aircraft, that way locking down the skies pretty hard. So that's another bigger change within the game there. Other changes basically involved for the Orbital Commander. The light infantry gun gets less range, but on the hand it gets better AE, and it gets access to smoke, so that way the Orbital Commander Vest finally has access to a way of deploying smoke on the bloody battlefield. That's amazing. Stu-G's get some slightly revamped target weak point, but can only have 95 on the move, so it's more, you know, reliable, you know, to actually try and use target weak point from your Stu-G. That's a good thing. That is a very good thing. And obviously, again, I'm likely going to miss some details out there because I can't remember them all, to be honest. And obviously, there's some that are just going to be more important to me than they are to other players. So in that regard, there's also some just, you know, I'm just going to forget because I don't really think them huge details. Also, a more fun one. They actually, apparently, they had some model variations for the T-34s, the 76 version specifically, and they are being added back in. They're probably from the campaign. They've got around to the multiplayer, but basically that means you have to pay a bit extra attention, because initially when I saw a match with it, I actually thought, oh, that's a T-3045, and then, hang on, he's got shock rifle. He's not supposed to have those. And then, oh, T-3476 variations. Neat. So that's certainly also a little thing to keep in mind as well, that's, you know, happening there. But again, it's a nice little detail I do personally like. Beyond that, I mean, there are a bunch of other changes, but overall, again, the biggest just changes to all of those calling units. British mortar emplacements getting nerfed. Oberkommanders finally gaining access to smoke. Kugelwagen ballets also getting nerfed. Less armor, less health, meaning it is less bulletproof. That was definitely a tiresome thing to have to deal with. As the Allies, we went up against the Oberkommanders. Penal troopers also get a nerf specifically. They can't quite shoot as well on the move. Plus, the anti-tank set of charges now requires the anti-tank rifles. So they aren't just, you know, that way just able to just ensnare any unit there with anti-tank satchels right away. So in that regard, there's a bit more requirement to using the anti-tank satchels. So yeah, a lot of changes there, and of course there will be more changes down the road. These are just initial changes. You don't have to, you know, completely lose your snot over it. Be sure to provide feedback on the forums, test it out and all that. Of course, I'll be posting the occasional replay featuring the Relic full balance preview here and there. And I'll also be posting videos sort of on a weekly basis, sort of covering whatever updates they're making to it as well. So expect more of those, But again, overall, I think a very good start, and I hope you get to see some more interesting and good changes for the game that will overall lead to a more exciting meta game down the road. So this is Imperial Dane saying thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hope it was educational. This is Imperial Dane signing off for another video. Cheers!